My name is Steve Bynoe, and I'm the co-creator and co-writer of Atrium, and you're listening to the True North Country Comics podcast.
Welcome to the True North Country Comics podcast, dedicated to celebrate Canadian comic book and graphic novel creators and supporters. I'm John Swinimer. On this episode, I chat with Steve Bynoe about the Atrium graphic novel from Comix Asylum Publishing. Please like and subscribe to this website by hitting the subscribe button so you'll be notified about new podcast interviews and article posts. This podcast is available wherever podcasts are enjoyed. Please like, follow, and subscribe. Based in Toronto, Ontario, Steve Bynoe is a former teacher with 22 years in the classroom, draws inspiration from his experiences as an educator and his lifelong love of comic books. He is the co-creator and co-writer of Atrium, Comix Asylum Publishing's debut independent comic book miniseries. Through his company, Bobo Creative, Steve has self-published novels including Chronocarry Alpha, Time is Relative, which he is currently writing and drawing as a comic book miniseries. In addition to self-publishing, Steve is a co-owner, editorial director, and a writer for the entertainment website Comix Asylum. The story of Atrium goes like this. Paramedics Naomi and Darnell are tasked with transporting a donor heart to an important but mysterious patient. Accompanied by a security detail, their journey takes a turn when a storm forces them to reroute. Attacked by a strike team hell-bent on stopping the heart from being delivered, Naomi and Darnell's perilous mission shifts from the city streets to the subway tunnels below them. When an explosion cripples their subway train, they must find a way to elude their attackers and deliver the heart before it's too late. So, without further ado, here's my chat with Steve Bynoe about the Atrium graphic novel from Comix Asylum Publishing. So, Steve Bynoe, thank you very much for taking time to chat with me.
Always a pleasure, John.
Before I get to all the questions, I would like to know, what was the first comic book that you read?
Oh, wow. That's a tough one. I probably can't give you an accurate answer on that one. The ones that I kind of remember, though, it's probably an Amazing Spider-Man, to be honest with you. And the ones I remember the most, I think it was like a three-parter with Doc Ock. I think it's like 88, 89, and 90. I think that's when Captain Stacy passed away. Doc Ock was part of a three-parter. That one I remember, for some reason, reading on a trip to Montreal. So I don't know how I had those issues, but I do remember that. I was pretty small.
That's classic stuff, that's for sure. Very good. Great stuff growing up, but I'm wondering who or what inspires you to create today?
I would have to say that it was the Marvel comics that I read as a kid. I will give full credit to my cousins, Peter and Spencer, who had a massive comic book collection. And I would read their Iron Man, Avengers, Superman, and Thor books because they were such big collectors. I then started my own, and I was reading Spider-Man and Hulk, and I love Teen Titans. But then the artists, probably, like John Romita, Sal Buscema, who just passed away, George Perez, who passed away, I think, last year. Those were the artists that really inspired me. And then obviously John Byrne, because he was doing X-Men, and then, Alpha Flight, which, being a Canadian, really hit home.
Yeah, lots of greats there, that's for sure. I remember going to my cousin's. He had a ton of Marvel comics. I was a big DC guy. So whenever I go to my corner store, the spinner rack, there'd be DC. But I always thought, well, what's this Marvel stuff? And I'd check it out, and it was pretty cool. So lots of good stuff. Sure. We met up just recently at the Action Figure Comic-Con. You were exhibiting there, and I want to get your thoughts and reactions. How was that show for you?
It was a great show. I was surprised at how busy it was, how many exhibitors there were, how many artists there were. Danny and Jay, who put it on, did an amazing job. So you got to check out Danny Green and Mega J Retro. If you get a chance, they're on YouTube and provide some great stuff on their channels. And they're really big into the toys. And I was just amazed. It was great to see you. It was great to see all the other artists that were there that had their books or their artwork. And the crowd was amazing, really well attended. And the venue was amazing at the Japanese Cultural Center. So all in all, it was a great day. I could probably see it being a 2-day show as it grows going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is an inaugural event, and first time there's some growing pains, of course, to figure out how to make it better next time. And as you say, maybe 2 days would be good. It was definitely a big crowd, that's for sure. So a good
Yeah,
turnout, first time at all. So we'll see how it goes next time. We shall
yeah,
see.
absolutely.
So we're here talking about your latest project, Atrium. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about it. What's the story all about?
So, Atrium is a story about two paramedics who are tasked with delivering a donor heart to an important VIP in the world. And en route, they and their security detail are intercepted by a group of deadly assassins who are vampires. They're forced into the subway system and their train gets derailed. They then have to find their way back onto the city streets to make sure that they are able to deliver the heart in time.
What was your inspiration for the story? Was it something in real life, or you something said, "What if?" Like, how did that work out?
This is a long, what is it, the Beatles that said sang the long and winding road. So basically, this idea kind of popped up around 15 years ago, where a good buddy of ours came to us and wanted to make a short film, an independent short film. And one of the stipulations was, can you have it in like one location so, keep the costs under control? And so we kind of came up with this idea, and it's morphed quite a bit over the years, moving from a movie script to a novel to a comic book, and then trying to find the right artist and then getting it to the point where we've now got 5 issues done, and we've also have it as a graphic novel. We have it translated into Portuguese, in French. Portuguese edition is finished. The French edition is being worked on, and then obviously we have it in English.
Cool. Who are your collaborators on making this graphic novel?
I am the luckiest creator in the world. My team is fantastic. Lucas Falapi is the artist. He's out of Sao Paulo, Brazil, and incidentally is also doing the Portuguese translation and also lettered it. Gregory Parkin is our letterer. Nikos Koutsis and Mike Torres are the colorists, and they actually color for Savage Dragon for Image. So they're fantastic. It was fantastic to work with them. They really brought Lucas's work alive. My co-writer and co-creator is Peter Van Horn. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention Vaughn Joseph, who designed the title, does all of the heavy lifting in terms of putting the artwork together and getting everything ready for print. And he is the style genius behind Atrium. Yeah, it's a great
Ah,
team.
cool. What was the collaboration process? Was it just you sitting down, hammering out the script, or the script exists, and then said, "Okay, let's find an artist"? Or how did that all work out? I know you said it went through a winding road to get to its final shape, but can you walk me through a little bit more about it?
Yeah, sure. So initial idea was brought to Greg, our letterer, and then Greg brought it to me, and then we kind of came up with an idea. And from the start, it was always going to have vampires in it, and it was always going to take place in the subway system. And then we wrote the script, and then we brought in Peter, who's really good at writing scripts and has written for film, and I actually work with Peter on independent films. He brought his screenwriting chops to the mix, and we then developed it into a movie with a screenplay. And then we decided probably the easiest thing to do is just turn the screenplay into a comic book. And then we searched high and low for an artist. That was probably the hardest part, but it was, fulfilling and very rewarding in the end. And we had an artist, a good friend of ours, but he dropped out right at the last minute. We had the first issue drawn, and he just felt that it wasn't right to continue. So no harm, no foul. We parted ways. We're still great friends, and everything's great. And believe it or not, we found Lucas as I was scouring formerly X, I guess when it was still Twitter, and a writer put a call out for an artist. And so tons of artists put their portfolios online during this thread. And I just went through the thread, found two or three artists that I liked, took them back to the team, and Lucas was the one that came out on top, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Oh, very good. Now, you mentioned that this was a potential idea for a film. Do you think it could ever return back to another medium, whether it be TV or motion picture?
Most definitely. One of the things that we have gotten as feedback from fans is how cinematic it is. A lot of that credit goes to Lucas, who was able to kind of take what we put on the page and then make it his own with his own visual style and flair. And it does read like a film. And there were moments where Peter and I decided we're going to leave dialogue out of it and kind of let the visuals drive the narration. That's so if it's something where you need sound effects so the letterer can have some fun, or Lucas can kind of not worry about having some of his artwork obscured by word balloons. We left it in their hands, and the result is something that we're very, very proud of and very happy with.
Cool. Now, we've been talking about Atrium as the graphic novel. I'm wondering, are there any other projects that you're working on that you can talk about?
There's two that I can talk about. I'm currently out of the country at this moment writing a novel, and it's based on a character that my uncle created called Edge. So I'm writing the follow-up novel for that, and it's called Song of Sixpence. And so I'm just putting the final touches on it here in Barbados, where part of it is set. So I'm just kind of like immersing myself in the environment to kind of capture what the island's like and what the feel's like and put it on the page so it kind of is an authentic feel for the reader. And then I'm currently drawing the follow up to my novella called Chronocari Alpha. Time is relative. So I published it as a novella in 2014, and now I'm doing it as a 5-issue graphic novel. So I've written, I guess, 3 more issues that would have kind of filled in for the first 2 that the initial novella covered. And I've got about 10 more pages left to draw, 3 that I haven't touched yet, so I'm almost finished. And it's actually in the, I guess, the pre-launch phase on Kickstarter. And we're hoping to launch probably in another month or so.
Very good. Now, you mentioned drawing. What sort of tools do you use to get your art across? Whether it's, is it digital or traditional? What do you use?
I'm mainly digital now. I have to thank my good friend Hugh Wookwood, who is an amazing artist in his own right and also was at the Action Figure Comic Con. This is years ago, even before COVID. I was still doing things traditionally, and he said, Steve, you might want to look into doing things digitally. And he recommended the Cintiq by Wacom. And I've been using that ever since. And I used to use Photoshop, but I totally love using Clip Studio Paint.
We talking about Action Figure Comic Con, and that's where we met up recently. I'm wondering, are there any other events on your calendar that are planned for this year?
Oh, yeah. I was just talking to Vaughn this morning, and we had initially said last year, maybe we should kind of, reduce the amount of cons we're going to. And he said, well, it looks like we're going to be at the same amount, if not more, this year. So offhand, I can't remember them all, but I know we'll be at MCAF in Montreal. I think that's in May. We are slated to be at YetiCon in Barrie. We'll be doing a lot of one-day shows. And I think we'll be doing some at the Monte Cristo, which is near Downsview in Toronto and I guess North York, in the GTA. Also looking at maybe coming back here to Barbados because they have a con called Anime Con in August. And then also there's one in Brantford. I think that's going to be the one that we hit first.
Well, with everything that you have on the go, both events and books and this sort of thing, where do you recommend that people go online to find out more about you?
On the publication side, you can go to comixasylumpub.com. That's where our books are for sale. We're also on Global Comics if you want to pick up single issues of Atrium. There's also the Comix Asylum website, our YouTube channel, Comix Asylum, where we do interviews with creators, we do live streams, and we're now on Amazon, and that's where you can pick up the graphic novel for Atrium, which combines all 5 issues in one volume. So you can find that on Amazon.com or CA if you're in Canada.
Cool. Well, Steve, those are all the questions I have for you, but I'm wondering, is there something I didn't ask that you want to get across in this interview?
You know what? I'd just like to express my love of comic books and not only just mainstream stuff, but independence as well. The one thing that I've noticed in this journey is that, yeah, Superman and Spider-Man and Wonder Woman and, Invincible, those are all big books and big projects. But there's a lot of talented and driven creators who are working kind of like under the cover of darkness and may only be known locally because they can only get to their local shows or maybe their local LCSs. And there's a lot of great storytelling that's happening out there. So I would say, even if your pull list is, maybe near being full, support your indie creators. There's a lot of great stuff going on, and you never know, they might be the next mainstream star that you're reading in a few years down the line.
Thanks to Steve for the chat. You can discover more about Steve Bynoe on Instagram at Steve Bynoe Art. That's SteveBynoe Art. And you can discover more about Comix Asylum at comixasylumpub.com, and that's comics with an X. And thank you for tuning in to the True North Country Comics podcast. I invite you to visit the True North Country Comics website to listen to even more conversations with creators about making comic books and graphic novels. I also encourage you to subscribe via the website so be notified about new podcast interviews and article posts. This podcast is available wherever podcasts are enjoyed. Please like, follow, and subscribe. You can follow along True North Country Comics on most social media sites. And you're encouraged to send any and all feedback to John at truenorthcountrycomics.com. Thanks for tuning in, and come back soon for another episode. Bye for now. True North Country Comics Podcast is copyright True North Country Comics, copyright 2026.